Thanks for joining us in Vermont.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure to join you in Vermont from Michigan. So I think we've got about 90 minutes together today, and we're going to talk about some content from a project that we've been working on in the last few years, the SEL Challenge. It's funny to call it our project because, of course, we're not going to discuss a new idea today. These ideas have been around for a long time, particularly the last 40 years. Our difficulty in implementing shouldn't get in the way of our understanding. You're going to hear a bunch of stuff you already know today. So that's an important thing about SEL is that it's a really interesting topic because it cuts across everything that we do. It cuts across our lives too, and we all have understandings of it, and we tend to all use different words. So a big part of the work that we do in the SEL Challenge was to come to kind of plain spoken ways to talk about the practice. Again, not new ideas, but plain spoken ways to talk about the practice, and then also to align some measures so we could talk about performance in these areas of practice and deal with accountability and evaluation and performance improvement, the kind of stuff that we at the Weikart Center deal with. I really appreciate you all taking the time to be in this meeting. This is an early phase of the content for us. We like to iterate a whole lot. The guide was published almost a year ago, the blue guide that you're looking at, that content. Took a couple years to produce the content. Now we're taking that content out as trainings and various interactions with people and getting feedback. And we'll continue doing that over the next few years. Letting our, the communication work around this evolve. So this is early. And so we appreciate your participation in it. We think of our partners and clients in terms of innovation partnerships. We work together to figure out how to make this stuff work, and this is just a part of that process. I have been, over the last 10 years, the executive director at the Weikart Center. I'm transitioning to a new role here, but still very much involved in research and design. I was the principal investigator on this project, so that just means I know the content pretty well. The Weikart Center, many of you, and I can see hands. So can you raise your hand if you're familiar with the program quality assessment, or PQA? All right, fantastic. And then what about the YPQI, the continuous improvement intervention that goes with PQA?
Planning the data.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. So our goal was to produce content that fit right into that continuous improvement work. Again, no new ideas in that work either, right? A lot of common sense ideas. So we wanted to figure out how to talk about social emotional, the parts in the kids that change, and the behaviors that happen as a result. As kids grow SEL skills, they start to act in new ways. And then back it right on up to the practices. What is it that really skilled adults who work with kids say that they do to help kids change internally in those ways and then enact those new behaviors? That's kind of like teaching, right? And youth work. So that was the primary work here. I should also say, I've been on your website, the Vermont Department of Education website, a fair amount in the last couple of years. You all are a progressive education website, and the proficiency-based and competency-based work in Vermont education has been very interesting to us because we work on quality attributes of practice and flexible education settings. So I think that probably a lot of what we're going to talk about, I think probably a lot of the continuous improvement work, the idea of observing practice, the idea of best practice and good practice, the idea of individualized learning and individual flexible pathways. This social emotional learning content really does fit into that policy context as well. So, we're talking about this in the after school field where it really fits nicely. But I think there'll just be increasing demand for this kind of talk and this kind of expertise in the school day work as well. And your state is evidence of that, I think. I don't know, let's test the back and forth a little bit. Can I ask some questions of you and you guys, and a couple more questions, and raise hands? So how many people here are certified teachers? Okay, any social workers, people trained in social work? Yeah, okay, there's a hand, right on.
There's a few more hands you can't see off to the side, Charles. There's two.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. All right, great. And how many people are based in a public school? Okay. And how many of you are 21st century community learning centers? And how many of you are neither primarily based in public schools nor funded through 21st century? A couple people. All right. You want to holler out the kinds of organizations that you all are from?
YMCA.
YMCA, got it.
Agency of Education.
Okay, great. Welcome.
I'm saying Agency of Education.
Two people from AOA, so.
Okay, great. Well, that's good. So a mix, but primarily 21st century. So I'm going to bring up the issue or address the issue of how this fits precisely in the 21st century context a little bit later on. Are there any other really important issues that you would want to talk about when we talk about SEL? If anybody came in here with an important question, you want to just kind of give a holler right now, and I'll try to incorporate some kind of response to that question in the workshop today.
One possibility too is if you have a question, write it down, bring it to me. I can put it in the chat.
Okay, if anything comes up, we're going to do 2 Q&A sessions, so there'll be plenty of time to ask some questions. Basically, the agenda for the meeting today is we've got 90 minutes. We'll do a little bit of warm-up. Can I ask, how many people in the room basically know everybody else in the room?
There's quite a few people that know many of us, but there are some newbies too.
That's fantastic. All right, so that's good for the warm up. We'll do a warm up. We'll do one core activity, getting to know the content within the 6 domains of SEL, and then we'll do a little bit more talk and Q&A on both sides. So that's basically there's one core activity where we really do some work and analyze the standards for a few minutes. And then other than that, we'll talk, and it's kind of framing, and we'll have a couple opportunities for Q&A. And that's the plan. So next slide, please. The objectives for the session today.
We actually did not have your screen share up, and I am a little nervous because we had to close it. We had that little technology blip. So hold on just a second.
Okay.
We have it. There it is, everybody. I don't know if I can pull it up this way.
Well, I was just going to, I can keep talking. So I was talking about the objectives for the session today. There are 4. First objective is to understand the methods that we used to develop the SEL standards and our argument about their validity. The second objective is to become familiar with the 6 domains of social emotional learning as they are developed in these materials. You will see that there are many frameworks to describe social and emotional learning. They are all very aligned. There are some important differences, but our 6 domains are highly aligned with other frameworks like CASEL and the University of Chicago Consortium for Public Schools. There we go. That was the first slide. So if you're going to go 2 slides down now.
Sure. Sorry about that, Charles. You're talking to a technological, I don't know. How are we doing, everybody?
The third objective is to review some of the tools for doing professional development. I think most of all of you are supervisors or managers of out-of-school time, after-school programs. So if you do PD with your staff, there are some tools that are, in addition to the guide, that go with the guide that are on the website that you can use for discussions around this work. And then finally, we want to understand how this content aligns more specifically to the program quality assessment and in particular to the youth program quality intervention, the continuous improvement cycle that we support with folks. So those are the 4 objectives. Our agenda, we're going to stand up and get to know each other in just a second. First, we're going to talk about the overview of and findings from the SEL Challenge. What did we learn? What was the study about? Then we're going to, as I said, we're going to do this activity. It's a jigsaw activity where we get into the content. We'll go over the tools and the YPQI, and then we'll talk a bit more. We've got a slide for that, but no need to go into detail. So I also wanted to talk about the materials for the day. You should have a copy of the Preparing Youth to Thrive guide, the blue covered book, in front of you. I want to say a couple things about that. Also in your packet, there should be a little tab of paper that says, has a name of one of the 6 domains. It's emotion management or responsibility, initiative, teamwork, problem solving. Does everybody see that slip of paper?
Yep.
Okay, so if you flip to page 1 of the guide and look at the table of contents, you will see sections 2.2 through 2.7 on the lower left-hand side of the table of contents. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So section 2.2 through section 2.7 are the 6 SEL domains, and they're organized in the guide in this fashion so that you can dip into each domain. This is not a book that's meant to read cover to cover. It's meant as a resource. So these are the 6 domains that we'll really be talking about today. If you flip, for example, to page 35, you will see on page 35 a table providing the content for the emotion management domain. That table includes a set of youth key experiences and a set of staff practices. And again, we'll have more to say about this as we go through the day, but these domains follow in succession. And on the if you go to the first page of each domain on the next page, there is that table. And those are the standards for that content domain. When we do the activity, the domain that's named on your tab of paper is the one that you'll be studying a bit. So if you're a person who has to look at something while you listen, you can be flipping ahead to that domain because we're going to try to cover that content. This is the most important part of the training. And so the more familiar you get with the content in that domain, the better it all works. So like I said, I can see the room, but not very closely, and I wouldn't be offended if you were looking ahead anyways. So in addition to that guide and that slip of paper, can we advance the slides?
Mm-hmm. One more?
I'm not seeing the slides advance. Are you?
I am.
So we should be on, I think, slide 6, materials for today, handouts.
Yep. Yes.
Okay,
That's
great. Great. Yeah, for some reason they're not. I'm viewing Tracy Truzansky's screen, and I'm not seeing the slides advance.
I'm going to try a resume share, see if we get there.
Okay, great.
Are you seeing like that? Yeah. We're going to have to go with me sharing where you are. And it's a PowerPoint. Yeah.
I've got a hard copy here, so as long as we communicate it, we don't have to.
You guys can see the slides. That's important. I'm on, yeah. So Charles, every time you say move the slide, I will say this is where I am and we'll be good. I'm right now on materials for today.
Yeah, that's great. And the second materials for today's slide has the subtitle handouts. And so in addition to the guide, we produced a technical report. The guide describes the standards and the practices. And the technical report describes a suite of measures, methodology for the whole project, but in particular a suite of measures that we used. But in addition to those 2 books, and you've got one of them in front of you, and the website, there are 3 handout kind of professional development tools that are available for free on the website. And they're for just starting conversations. We do have measures, performance measures for SEL, both for settings and for kids. But we thought that people, a lot of people know how to do this work well. And as the world is increasingly calling for it to be done and to be done well and naming it, many of you as your own professional development leaders may want to talk with your staff and have a more informal way to do that to get these processes started. So these 3 handouts, they should also be in your packet. They're under slightly different names, but they're the similar names. So there's one on curriculum. We're not going to talk so much about that today, but do you all see a handout in your guide called Curriculum Features Reflection? Yeah, okay, great. So that's about curriculum features. Again, we're not going to talk about that so much today. I will come to the issue of curriculum a little bit later. There's another one called Standards for SEL Practice. This is the most important one for today. It's several pages long. It's white. Standards for SEL practice on the front. And then if you open up to the first page, you see, again, the first domain, emotion management. So this handout is that table that's there. We're not going to use the columns to the right, but you can, of course, use this to write and make notes on. But that table in emotion management is the same content as in that table in section 2.2 in the guide. So again, when we come to the jigsaw activity, you may want to have the guide open to your section, but you've got that same content here in this handout. I think there are 2 pages for each domain. And so if you want to write on it or highlight any words or whatever, you can also use this, okay? So that's the second material. And then the third is labeled staff rating of youth behavior. Again, we won't use this until the very end. But in the project, we looked at both staff practices, the way the context was set up for the kids, and the behaviors that the expert practitioners who helped us on this said that they wanted the kids to be able to do, and that represented to them the learning of SEL skills. So there were three of these additional handouts. First you've got the guide, and then there's a discussion, the curriculum features handout. Then there's the standards for SEL practice that we're going to use primarily today, and then there's the staff rating of youth behavior. So that's the materials. So next slide, please. And this slide should say welcome and a question. So I would like to start by priming our own SEL environment a little bit. I've only got a little picture of you in front of me, but I can tell by body language.
If you want, Charles, you can switch to your larger speaker view, which would be them, I think. Try that.
Really?
Up at the top right, there's a gallery view, and then there's speaker view. I guess you may or may not be able to see them any more in detail, but nope. That's okay. I'll just tell you that they're all really beautiful people. And
now I can see, but of course now I can't see myself. So at any rate, so we need a slide called welcome and a question.
That's where we are.
Outstanding. So what I would like to ask you to do in just a moment is to spend the next 4 minutes. I'm going to ask you to stand up and meet eyes with someone and smile with your eyes and show them that you're happy to see them and you're happy to be here. And maybe a big smile on your face as well. And then I want you to walk up to them. I want you to welcome them sincerely for coming to this meeting and for caring about kids and for caring about how we interact with kids, and welcome them to this meeting and ask them one question and then move on. So I'm going to go first. So we're gonna stand up. We're gonna meet eyes with somebody. We're gonna smile with our eyes, and we're gonna welcome them and tell them we appreciate them coming to this meeting. And then we're gonna ask them a question. So here's my question. Welcome to this meeting. I'm really glad to spend a moment with you. How many people can you talk to in the next 4 minutes? Good luck.
Okay. No.
Charles, can you still hear me? It's Tracy.
I can.
There is a way for me to stop screen sharing and let you see the bigger group in the next few minutes and then we go back.
I can actually, I've got the little views, so I'm, whatever works is fine. This works for me. Oh, there we go. That's great.
All right. So can you see them in the big picture?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fantastic.
I feel badly that the problem we had with the PowerPoint was that it wasn't up any longer on my.
Oh, it's all fine.
It's working okay.
And is it Debbie? Tracy, right. So, Tracy, welcome to the training. I'm happy that you were able to join us. What's your role?
You can even see my face. There, hold on. Thanks, Charles. I appreciate what you do. I'll let you see the whole crowd again. Hold on.
So, we're coming to the 1 minute warning. You think in 1 minute I can ask you to help call folks back to order?
Yes, I'm good at yelling.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tracy.
Like my glass. It's about 2:33 here, so I assume we're on schedule for you. Like
Yeah.
an hour.
Great.
These guys don't settle down too quickly, so here we go. Come on back, everybody.
Welcome back. Would anybody want to share something interesting that they learned? Maybe one or two things from your questions? How many, who got to the most people? How many talked to 3 people? How many 4? How many 5? How about 6? Oh, good.
You ran for me.
So, does anybody have, again, something you learned about someone in the room that is worth, that you'd like to remark on?
Come on, Vermonters. Come on, you guys. Nancy, you gotta demo what you demoed for me. Do it. Come on, Nancy.
When you
do it.
have to public speak, take a pen.
Can you see this?
And leave it there for 2 minutes, and then when you go to public speak, you'll naturally smile without it being fake.
Have you seen that before?
Yeah, right. We're going to have an SEL shortcuts page that we'll put that one on.
Come sit right here. Holly's got something.
No, I just.
You can't see you.
Can you see me now? Hey,
Oh,
Charles.
yeah. Hey, hi, Holly.
So I learned from Oriana that smiling with your eyes is actually called smizing.
Oh, yeah.
So I never knew that before.
Outstanding. Okay, so let's jump back into it. The next slide is called "What is the SEL Challenge?"
Please. Look at me. Can you see that
Crushing
I'm
it,
doing this?
crushing it. You're on.
Oh, now I can see the slides.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move the slide. There we go.
Wow, that's great. So we designed the SEL Challenge 3 years ago with the SCE Foundation in Chicago with 2 big goals in mind: to identify promising practices and for use around SEL in the out-of-school time field with vulnerable adolescents, and then to integrate those into the continuous improvement method so that we could take it to scale. You know, in the YPQI, there are currently, you know, we can count 4,500 sites that use the YPQI. So presumably, any of those sites could integrate SEL work, since quality and SEL are highly overlapping concepts, could integrate that work into their program using the YPQI. So that was our ultimate thought. That will take some years to do. And again, there are many people or systems like YPQI out there. And, you know, we designed this content to fit with those systems as a scaling approach. Next slide, please. So the first thing to say is, while we want to develop practices and use them in a continuous improvement approach, and I've said several times already, these ideas are not new. One of the things we have to do is honor the folks who have thought about this stuff and made lots of progress on it before. Many names that I'm sure folks in the room know: High Scope Foundation, the Responsive Classroom, Tribes, Restorative Justice. It may date me a little bit for those of you who remember Stephen Glenn and the 7 Habits of Capable People and the 7 Habits of Capable Students. They were talking about youth perceptions of exactly their abilities in SEL skills. Many of us have gone through various conflict resolution trainings, conscious discipline, appreciative inquiry, or some newer ones. These ideas are broadcast across the education sector under different names. And, you know, we tend to say soft skills or 21st century skills or SEL, but there are also these brands that are widely used brands and products and organizations that have wide reach that do exactly this work. So, so why study the SEL practices? Our primary intent in studying the practices, again, not because we had any unique insight that SEL was important. There's, you know, basically 100 years of pretty steady evidence, and a whole lot in the last few, that having higher, you know, the ability to self-regulate and to focus your attention and to channel your emotions in appropriate ways and to, you know, to engage in problem-solving strategies, that these skills serve you really well in lots and lots of different ways. And so there's a whole bunch of evidence about that. And we decided that in doing this project, our goal was not to try to reinvent that evidence, but just to say, okay, so we got a lot of studies with strong designs that show that SEL skills lead to important things. But what we haven't standardized nearly so much, and again, it's not that this information isn't out there, there's a ton of it about how to do SEL, but it hasn't been standardized in a way where the different domains talk to each other. And there has been less systematic work to describe the teacher practices that's widely available that go into various kinds of SEL skills. So our goal was to study SEL practices at a granular level so that, one, we could describe things that people could then do right in their program as a part of their teaching practice, but also, even more importantly, so that people who already did it really well could say, hey, look, here's some validation for this work we've been trying to do. And here's all these exemplary programs and expert practitioners and a long research program from Reed Larson at University of Illinois for 20 years and thousands of interviews with kids and staff. There's a long-standing research program that underpins these things that we already do. And look, with it, you should do more of it. We should do more of it. We need more resources for this work. So that was why we wanted to study SEL practices, to start to standardize enough the discussion of practices at a granular level so people who wanted to do the work, but also people who were already doing it, could use that to bring attention and resources to their work. Focusing on vulnerable teens, the reason we focused on teens was in part because the SCE Foundation wanted to. It's a core sweet spot for the Weikart Center, but also at the time when we started this project, the various lists of evidence-based programs for SEL was long on the elementary middle childhood side and not so long on the adolescent side. So we thought that it would be good to do work with adolescents just because of the paucity of evidence-based information about programs and practices that worked well with teens. The other part of it was, as we go further and you get familiar with the things that are in the standards, we're all familiar with really super high quality, awesome teen programs that do this kind of work. You know, outdoor education programs and apprenticeship and arts programs in particular. This is a part of the kind of intensive enrichment tradition that many communities do for teens. So it's also likely that there are a lot of programs around the country doing really high quality who are, again, somewhat unrecognized, but they're there. Now, how does the work apply to the 21st century? There are a number of angles on this. I'm going to talk a little bit later about adjustments in our thinking that we need to make about using this work with elementary level. But in general, as you go through it, I think you will see many places where these kinds of practices apply to work with elementary age kids. We have asked folks who do elementary out of school time programming to kind of go through and mark up the places that they don't think work. When they do that, they tend not to mark up a lot of places. So we think that the content is widely applicable with the kind of standard developmental limitations. And again, I'll talk about that in a minute. The other way in which this is particularly important to 21st century is, you know, many 21st century programs try to do enrichment. They try to do that as part of their model. And enrichment programs, you know, we make the kids feel safe, or we help them feel safe. We help them become and stay interested in the content. And then we just try to help them get as good as the skills that they're working on as they can. That is, you know, and in some important ways, that's SEL-focused curriculum. Heavily supported curriculum so that kids can be successful in what they're doing. That's particularly, you know, important for kids who have been exposed to, who have difficult SEL histories, who have difficulty self-regulating in some ways, who can be come into an environment and not be ready to be open to what's in the environment. So doing a curriculum like we call out of school time enrichment, that has implications for SEL. The other side of it is the SEL skills are basically the higher learning skills. If you look at the instructional science or education sciences and the applications of neuroscience to educate, the stuff they say you should do with kids looks a lot like the list of SEL skills in this book and the list of SEL supports that many other sources have. So, you know, in part, 21st century is doing enrichment, a broader academic enrichment kind of experience where SEL ideas really fit. And in part, these are just good mental skills. They help you learn. So, you know, those are a couple of the ways that this applies to 21st century. The one that requires almost the most thinking is you know, thinking about who your kids are, especially if they're elementary level, and how you make this, the programs that we describe in this guide are quite deep. They're intensive. They have many sessions. They do pretty sophisticated projects. And obviously, younger kids can't do projects of similar complexity or sophistication. So, you know, there has to be some adjustment. But we'll get to that specifically in a moment. Next slide, please. There were a number of challenge partners. We put out an RFP. We had 250 responses. We did an extensive selection recruitment process, got down to 8 expert offerings and their practitioners. We had the person who runs the organization, the person who's the most experienced teacher delivering the offering or curriculum, and then the evaluator come as a team. So we had 8 teams of 3 or 4, and they were our expert practitioners. We worked with Reed Larson at University of Illinois. Reed's been doing a 20-year research program focused on exactly these sets of issues. He's more interested in the youth skills, but also the staff practices. But because Reed had done so many interviews with kids, we thought that's a perfect literature, a perfect foundation. The 6 domains really basically come from his work. They're kind of common sense domains. We thought that's a great place to jump off with if we're really going to focus on the staff and ask them about what they think's happening. Let's start from this foundation of research that comes from interviews with youth. SCE Foundation is a foundation in Chicago that funded the work initially, and now we're out iterating with clients. So you all become part of that process. Next slide, please. The study that was used to create the standards and the suite of SEL measures was a mixed method study. We did an intensive qualitative study focused on granular descriptions of staff practices and the staff's ideas about what the important youth experiences were. We did interviews with youth, with expert youth who had been in the programs in prior years. We did focus groups on site with youth, but our main interest, our intensive data collection was interview and focus group data, very deep from this group of 3 staff that we recruited from each organization. That qualitative study produced the standards for SEL practice. We also developed a set of measures, both a multi-level set of measures, so measures for organizational processes that support SEL, for instructional processes like the PQA that support SEL, and then we also developed measures for youth SEL skills. We asked kids about their beliefs, so we asked them if they believed they were good at X at an SEL skill. Are you good at managing your emotions, for example? Can you stop an emotional process and reappraise and come up with a new way of thinking about the way you're feeling? That may not have been the item, but that's the point. And so these items we gathered from various studies. Most of them came from the Child Trends organization, but also from some other sources. And then with the expert practitioners, we developed a staff rating of youth behavior. We're really interested in youth behaviors because the behaviors fit the setting. The program exists. It's all the things we ask the kids to do, or the kids say they plan to do. And in doing that, they should be acting out behaviors that look like social emotional skills, because these settings are places to practice. So we worked with the practitioners to say, hey, what are the things the kids can't do when they come in, but they can do by the time that they leave? And so we developed our staff rating of youth behavior at that kind of a higher. It's about behavior, longer term behaviors that the kids learn in the programs. Next slide, please. So the standards and measures are for 6 domains of SEL practice, and you can see those domains here. We got these cool, kind of cartoon caricatures that represent and try to communicate the emotional parts in the way that we understand the 6 domains. Faces, communicate a lot. So emotion management, empathy, teamwork, responsibility, initiative, and problem solving. Again, very common sense language, common sense domains. In particular, we're interested in describing staff practices, right? So this set of domains is probably not the best one for describing the intra-individual, the inner states of the kids, what the kids are doing to regulate their attention and their emotion. This is more about dividing the practices up in a way that organizations and individuals can decide, I want to build SEL skills in the area of responsibility. Here are the practices that these organizations use to build those skills in the area of responsibility. So our framework is really about describing practice, staff practice, and youth behavior. Again, lots of overlap with other frameworks, but that's what this one was designed for. We also designed a set of curriculum features, and this was an accident of the work. It turned out there were some things that were in common across all 6 of the domains. For those of you who do program design or curriculum design or may work for a school district and be a curriculum person, you will have a lot of interest in these features. These are also the parts that need to be adjusted a little bit for elementary age kids. In a sense, those curriculum features are also standards. They're like a 7th domain of standards. You can think about them that way. And then finally, there was a really intensive program design. I'm not going to talk about that at all today, really. But that design is what these programs was common about them is they did all of this at once, and they did it in an intensive way. And so we called this project-based learning with intensive co-regulation. And, the idea being that challenging tasks give kids opportunities to try and often to fail or have challenges. And it's in those moments of challenge and failure frequently where the opportunities for SEL skills really come out. And so adults have to have ways of being responsive, right? And again, no new information here. But stepping into that moment when challenge is experienced, when social emotional skills are required, and helping a kid demonstrate, learn, demonstrate, practice their social emotional skills, their self-regulation, whether it's self-regulation around problem solving or self-regulation around how you're feeling flooded by emotions in the moment, or self-regulation around being bored and I don't feel like continuing to do this and I got to find a source of motivation somewhere. You know, and these are the kinds of things that teachers do all the time. So there were the 6 domains of practice, the curriculum features, and also this really intensive program design that's more like it's like an SEL design for adolescent youth. And I'm not going to talk about that today. It's just made up of all the parts. Next slide, please. So now we're going to do the main activity that will get us into the SEL content. I'm going to take questions right after this activity. Does anybody have a question right now, or can we move forward? I can't see the room, Tracy, so can you tell me?
I think we can move forward.
We can move forward.
So we're going to do this SEL Domains Jigsaw. You know, I'm not in the room, so we'll have to work together. This is the main foray into the content. So let's take this, you know, let's take this seriously and have a little fun with it. So this is the process. We're going to take about 30 minutes to do this. So I would like you to take your slip of paper, and don't do it yet, but I'm going to just explain this for now. So you're going to look at that slip of paper we pointed out earlier. That's your domain. I want you to meet up with other people in the room who have the same domain. We don't want to get more than 5 or 6 members for a group, ideally. So form groups with other people who share the same domain, and then get into a group, and you're going to have about 15 minutes. And what I'm going to ask you to do in that 15 minutes is to go ahead and read that table or that content in either the standards for SEL practice or that are actually in your section in the guide. That's redundant material. And you can write on, you know, if you want to write, this guide has shiny pages. It's hard to write on. So the handout may be better for writing. Find a group with your domain, read through the content in the table, and then talk about it. Your job in that 15 minutes is to become familiar enough with that content that you could explain it to somebody else in less than a minute in any way you want to. So you can explain it as an overview. Hey, this was what was in there. These words were really important. You could highlight the words that you think are important, and you could do kind of a word cloud and just read off important words. You could draw a picture to show somebody how you would represent responsibility. You can do a song or a poem, and anybody who does a song or a poem gets way high points for training participation. That's a high bar. So what we're gonna regroup now with a different person from each domain in the group, and you're going to explain it to that group, okay? But the first 15 minutes, we're just going to study the content. So maybe 5 minutes of quiet time as people read over, and then let's talk about it, okay? So first, you're going to go and find other people who have the same content area as you, sit together, pull out the content, read through it, and talk about it. And what you want to do in that process is come to a way to share it, okay? Does that sound good?
That sounds good, and they are on it. So.
All right, outstanding. I'll check back in 10 minutes.
I don't know. I like what
Okay. Any comments?
So, obviously, do you think we need to do the practice indicators? Because I don't think so. I mean, if we're just going to be on the first time, we're going to get
I'm gonna do like overall concept.
yeah.
What you're saying. Yeah, I just like find those important.
Some of the practice.
So like for each standard. Just one overall, like an overview. Yeah. And then let's put the main one. I can't say. The main ones. Oh, wow. Well, now that is.
Does anybody need newsprint? Yes, no?
challenge to kind of understand. Like it's a pretty early
We're doing that. So that is going to drop a few. No, I'm going to drop on the yeah, that's good.
I get that, I'm tired too. Yeah, and I'm kind of bring it to yourself too, like I can understand.
Another group.
All right, thank you. So then I have you have to be very well intentioned, but it has to be not, we can get another it's hard to choose that's where it gets that one. So that's why I were talking about, so trying to be more understanding about the way I student and someone I'm just like, why you put that next to the you know, and I think like, yeah. And I feel out of like those passions about being a professional, but it's easier how to work here. My project.
But if you all wanted to do one figure, versus something you know, just like,
So we're coming up on 10 minutes. Can you all hear me when am I on?
Our role is to help even more than just each other.
when you think of that, like versus like
What do they do? Like they do the things that the adults would do to make those things happen?
The challenging motions.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think for their mission? This is how the adults right?
questions.
All right, can you all hear me? Hello?
Charles.
Hey, how's it going, Tracy?
Charles, can you speak again?
Yes.
I just wanted to, I thought I lost your audio, but Holly turned it down really low.
Okay, great. So can we do a check with the room?
Sure.
Do you think 5 more minutes on the same task, or should we do a check-in?
Do you guys need a check-in, or do you need 5 more minutes to finish what you're doing? 5 more minutes.
Sounds good. I'll check back in 5.
Okay.
And what we would like folks to do is to now spend that 5 minutes thinking about how you would describe your domain to somebody else.
Did everybody get that?
Yeah.
You should be at the song and poem stage. They're laughing. You're getting it at the best time of day. Oh, Joyce, you can't see the slides.
And then the last one is.
Huh. When I do screen share,
Whatever you're trying to do.
Joyce, you should be able to see during screen share.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, great.
I think it's like they yeah. So I think one of the things that we're talking not that it's for the trades and yeah, this is coming in.
That's a great idea.
It does.
But yeah, I know, I'm just like,
Pick it up.
Charles, do you want to be on the room view, or do you want to go back to the PowerPoint?
Room view is great.
Okay. I have a few things I can just hold up to my camera if people have just done it small on a piece of paper.
Okay.
A little shy.
And what should we consider to be the stop time?
Probably in the next minute or so. Whenever.
No, but for the whole session. We started a little late. Do we keep going, or do we stop at 3:30?
I think you're going to have people till maybe 3:30, 3:40 before they're going to
3:30 is fine. That's good.
be 35.
So let's bring them back.
Okay. Oops. Not affected. Oh, that's terrible. One more time. I don't know, but if everybody kisses, it'll be good. Hold on. All right, Charles says time is up. Time is up. Now you want to be in heterogeneous groups now?
I do. I just want to just say one thing. So we're going to end right at 3:30 as planned on time. We started a little late, so I would like us to move into the next step of this this discussion, because I want to do the next step of the discussion and then talk about it. And I think that's a good place to get to for this content for today. So just to give an example of an under 1 minute. So I went to my favorite domain, which is the empathy domain, not to steal anybody's thunder. And this is a word cloud from the empathy domain. Safe space, actively care, check in, open up, reflect, serve as an ally, boundary setting. Those are youth experiences. Staff practices, or those were staff practices. Promote inclusion and equity, and my favorite line, demonstrating support for the principles that all are different, equal, and important. Explore the effects of stereotypes, articulate identities, attentive, empathetic listening, manage judgment. That's my word cloud for empathy. So you can do something just like that, however you want to describe it. Now come together in a group 1 through 6, less than 1 minute each, and go right around the group and explain. And you know, the way that you deliver it will help people remember bits and pieces. So give it your best delivery, and we'll come back in 8 minutes and talk about it.
Okay. Y'all know what to do? Mix up. Mix up. Find people that don't have the same domain you just did.
Okay, where do you go? You guys are the biggest group.
How you doing, Jennifer?
Is anybody got responsibility here? I got a motion.
I take no responsibility for your part. They're trying to get into heterogeneous groups. Holly, it would be great if that group could actually sit back there, and then I don't have to move the camera around, so he can see you.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Oh, I thought the way back table was, oh, there's 2. It's all right, I'll pan the camera. That'll be a good skill.
I was gonna say, I'll go first because I have a motion.
When it's their turn, I'll pan the camera.
So, positive and changing emotions.
We have adults that bring their and to support students with behavior and
Can you keep it group better?
That's why I turned it down last time. So I had empathy. She did on the screen. Sadly, I didn't touch it. Yeah.
Like, you know, like Wordle does.
Oh, right. No, so what I came away with though in my reading of it was, which was kind of great, it starts with identity. So when I was thinking of understanding so much about your reaching out, so that kind of stuck out to me, and then it grows like when you understand your own identity. So once you understand those two, your identity gets structured, and then you get to share stories between your own stories with other people and listening to their stories. So that becomes the next stage. And then stories about other people and other stories, which is acceptance of other people's stories, hearing about other people and their stories, which is so that's kind of how I like. I didn't need it somehow. Initiative over here was gonna help me. I was too busy feeling
Just kind of ended.
So it starts with cohesion and then getting used to this. So it's kind of like some really nice things that knowing we your own identity and then staff practice and staff and come together as a team.
Trying to like, like model that in the most authentic way. Because next year, like, like every human does, and just like acknowledging that group. Like, I didn't have that, and thanks for having that, like, you're a great part of the team, and like, that's what I like to bring down. All in a team, because we're all in a team, you know, and yes, you could do that by yourself, but,
Each of them taking on responsibility, they're getting letting God take ownership. So, and then having kids, try to build on your track of somebody or and also helping to build decisions to change your world and also the time responsibility to trying to get
Okay, so in terms of responsibility, report out the staff side, so students,
examples of them showing really looking at the role, but also try to give a open-ended variety of tasks.
and in that,
So-
it might be and then in terms of exams, you know, encountering those difficulties, understanding however they feel those interactions, you know, themselves, others, their peers.
So they drawing
on
given
their
or choose
interest
or accept the roles, so that's
to resources to successfully fulfill so roles and obligations.
those demands, they're probably
Thinking about the structure, the staff provides the structure, but it's,
or how they go.
it's also it's not like your data centers but it was also providing.
So I think staff, their
And then the coaching piece, and then trying to get these I feel like it's these like the interview and they need to.
And then from there,
Take some chances, make some mistakes. You know, get
Tracy?
also modeling just
staff support.
that's kind of how
Charles, I'm back.
Yeah, we should probably come back. I want to try to finish promptly at 3:30.
And then the last part.
There's a couple of groups that are fairly large and they're still finishing up.
Okay. Want to just have people come back and we'll just press ahead, or I want to have time to talk about it though is the key thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pan the camera on this if I can too.
Great.
You want me to clink one more time?
Yeah. Could you clink again?
Yes, I will. Sorry, guys. I don't have a chime that everyone else has, so get the glass. So Charles is inviting us to come back, and even if you haven't gotten through all of the domains, more room for opportunity to do that even after the presentation. I'm going to pan from, do you want to hear from each group out loud, or do you want to just have a more open discussion, Charles?
I think we can just have an open discussion. I think we've got 5 or 6 minutes that we can take comments. So any feedback, did you have any particular responses? Did you have a favorite line? Do you think you already
can see you all.
how this is teacher practice. This is the content, the practices that adults use with kids. And again, I don't think there's a lot of new content here. So what were your perceptions or thoughts or responses?
Do you want to just come over a little bit more this way and we can see you better, Kate? So Kate's in the purple jacket. Might look weird too.
Hi, I just wanted to say I really appreciate how finally these are distilled and articulated, because I think, like you were saying earlier, it gives us very clear targets for growth and very clear areas to name, or very clear words to name our strengths. So I really appreciate it.
Was there a particular strength that you saw and thought, jeepers, we're trying to do this all the time. I wish people would recognize that in our work?
I guess I think the team challenge, like just naming it on purpose, that it's part of what we should be providing and expecting that to be part of the process.
Right. Great.
Go ahead.
I liked that I could read these as an adult, and I feel like it's neutral across all humans. So like this is something to work on personally. It's something that we can ask of ourselves and of kids. So that to me is a sort of a challenge and an empowering thing, sort of equality thing, that I like things where I feel that way because it's more meaningful personally, and then I think that would rub off.
Absolutely, and it brings up that comment is a wonderful comment, and SEL is like air. Humans don't develop without it, and we all have it. And doing this work with kids is an opportunity for us to work on it for ourselves. And to the extent that we haven't worked on it for ourselves, that shows up with the kids, and that's just kind of hidden in the past. Whereas now we know that happens all the time. That happens in all of our interactions. So it's a great way. And another thing we learned about these programs that we won't talk about at all today was the really intentional staff supports that went along with it. In particular, helping children who have been hurt or who have had difficult SEL histories come at a cost to the adults who care and interact with them, and supporting those adults to debrief and to do at least a little bit of processing, and to know when an adult is not ready to walk in the room with a group of kids and deliver that kind of support was a really important part of the processes in all these organizations. So I think you raise a terrific point.
Others?
Well, I would just offer that when I was thinking about problem solving, I realized that I had to back up because all of those other levels of understanding empathy, for example, and these other key components are the building blocks for problem solving, particularly when kids are doing that together. So when you say we want kids to be able to work together and solve problems, you have to back it all the way up and make sure that you are doing what you need to at those first levels. What is empathy? And how do you do reflection? And so everything is intertwined in meaningful ways.
Yeah, right on. Who else?
Charles, I was thinking through, so the tool you already have, right, with the school age and the youth PQA, which already had this, you know, the levels of the pyramid and building up, was already had this whole level of complexity. This seems to go even deeper. And some of it you can see in there, like I was thinking about the empathy ones, and then you've got in the other tool, the items around bias, and then here we're talking about teamwork, and the other tool you have kids working in small groups, and so how do you not, I guess it's to wonder how it's informed your own work and your staff, and how do you not get like totally lost in all these dimensions and scales and things that we're supposed to be doing?
Well, I think we're in the cognitive dissonance moment right now, and there will be, you know, as the researchers say, there will be greater parsimony as we go forward. It'll get more elegant because there's lots of overlap. The thing is, you know, the youth development field for 15 years, we've all been working on problem solving, right? The cognitive strategies have been a real area that a lot of people have done work on and where we've really gotten comfortable in our discussions. But emotion management and empathy, not so much. And so as we've gone around the country, the message we've gotten from folks is, yeah, this looks like what we're doing. We see how it fits. We may not be strong in emotion management and empathy and want some additional deeper support there because we haven't been working on that for as long. And then, of course, there are people who really just specialize in that, who are very emotive and connect with people around emotions and with kids around emotions. And they're saying, thanks, finally, somebody has recognized, they're saying that this is important in a practice-oriented way. So I think for our work, it's building out the emotion management and empathy content in particular that is the area where we're focused now to develop new content to fill those out.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think it gives us permission not to expect emotion management from students when they walk in the door and recognize that it's something that we need to help them build.
Yeah, right on. And that, you know, there are such a thing as emotions, and you can identify them and talk about them and, you know, and have an effect on them. You can think about your own thoughts and you can think about your own emotions as they're happening. And that's just a hugely, hugely important skill. More difficult for younger children, but still, you know, one that children work on all the time. Using our words instead of our other body parts, right, is kind of a basic lesson. So we're at 3:27. I just want to, can we flip to the next slide? I want to say a couple things about elementary age kids.
One moment, please.
Oh, you get it.
I'm getting so good at this, I think. That didn't move.
Well,
Hold
I'll
on.
just go ahead and you can just keep clicking down. It says application in elementary settings. So I would just say the main thing to think about with this work and its application in elementary settings is, thinking about the learner. These are concrete little beings who, so that means more, it can't all be words. Pictures of faces are great ways to communicate social and emotional states. Mixing experiences and very concrete experiences, linking specific behaviors to specific words, having more frequent reinforcement. For many schools use positive behavior supports or, stars and rewards and incentives of that sort. We can see how this work fits with that kind of work. That's definitely better with younger kids. It doesn't work probably so well with older kids. So that structure is really important. More repetition, more verbal practice, and then the responsive practices by the adults. That was one of the things that was, again, one of the most important parts of the curriculum features. And they're listed in each of your domains. Some of the staff practices are called responsive practices. They're either coaching, scaffolding, facilitating, or modeling. And, in particular, that modeling, adults experiencing the challenges and the use of SEL practices with the kids, and adults showing on their faces, not just in their words, what it is to be a good team member, but showing the emotion on your face and your delight or happiness when kids actually execute skills and the emotions that go with the skills. That's a super important form of learning. So with littler kids, giving adults the opportunity to kind of go through the experience with the young person and knowing how to note, hey, this is an example of good teamwork, or look, I'm feeling flooded by emotion in this moment too, and here's what I'm doing about it. And just that showing of the connection between the adult's face and their management of the social and emotional dynamics is a super important way for younger children to learn. You know, again, I don't think any new information there, certainly, and for those of you who do curriculum work, these are the kinds of things you think about anyway. So, but some adjustments are necessary for elementary age kids. The place I would leave it is, this is curriculum. We can kind of take the word curriculum back. It doesn't just have to mean the content sequence that's aligned to a state curriculum. Curriculum is a meaningful set of experiences. It's the content and the sequencing of those experiences. And there is an SEL curriculum. We use, you know, some people have called it the hidden curriculum, right? Again, 20, 30 years ago. But this is curriculum, and you can design, we all design youth experiences so that they learn many skills, including social and emotional ones. And so that we can talk about the SEL curriculum in any offering. And the guide in its last section describes the curricula that are used in each of the exemplary programs, and that can be a model for discussing what the curriculum is in your work. With that, it's 3:31. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think that brings us to the basically to the end of the presentation. Holly, anything more you'd like from me?
Yeah, so I feel like we just got started.
Yeah, right.
And I'm looking at the big book, right? So what would you say would be sort of the next steps as we walk away, so that we just don't take these books and stick them on a shelf and not look at them again, because they're dense. So,
yeah.
So what are like one or two things that people, you know, could do next?
So there are two levels of follow-up action. One level is just to get conversations started internally, led by people who feel comfortable leading them. So that's what the 3 tools that are on your table are for. If you want to go in through the practices that we've just looked at, if you want to go in through the curriculum features, or if you want to go in through the descriptions of youth behaviors that go along with each domain, each of those is set up so that you can read the indicator and then ask, how important is this to us, and how frequently does it happen? And when during the curriculum cycle does it happen? And those are prompts to conversation about, you know, curriculum design, about designing experiences that work for kids. For those of you who are ready to implement measures organized around these domains, we do have a PQA now with additional emotion management and empathy content. We do have the staff rating of youth behavior, and we do, you know, provide people consulting if you, if you're looking for other kinds of measures. We support the DESA by Devereaux. We've been talking to the folks at Algorithm. You know, we help people implement the NIOST measures for social emotional skills. So, you know, we can also support you as you go if you want to implement measures. The easiest would be to move to the SEL PQA, which again has a few additional scales in it. It's a beta version, right? We're just getting those scales out into the world. They will change in the next couple of years, but we've got the scores reporter set up to support them, and so we can do some supports for the use of the measures if you want to go to that step. So 2 levels. One is that use the 3 tools on your table as discussion pieces internally, and then if you want to move to measurement, we can do that in the context of YPQI as well.
Awesome. And so for other sites that are using the new SEL scales, are they doing that instead of the other domains and scales, or are they they're just adding it into, so when they do their assessment, they're looking at additional scales?
It's a mix. The SEL PQA has been shortened of some of the older stuff and lengthened by adding the new stuff. So it's roughly the same instrument, maybe a little bit longer, but you can, you could choose to work. You could theoretically just implement a scale in one domain. So there is flexibility there.
Awesome, thanks. Other questions for Charles? Good.
Can I ask one last question?
Sure.
How many people in the room, raise your hands, would say that you feel like you have experience and expertise in at least 3 or 4 of these domains, if not all of them? That you feel really comfortable operating in this area? Not that you're know all the literature and the really convoluted and confusing social science that's out there about it, but you have a lot of experience working with kids in this area.
Got a lot of
Yeah,
you might not be able to see too.
I see a lot of hands, and that's the point. I think that all we have to do is mobilize this content as being legitimate content to work on, and I think that there are many experts who can help us get better at it and get more intentional about it, and also get rewarded and recognized for doing it.
Thank you very much. You guys join me in thanking Charles. Thank you so much.
Take care. Peace. Thanks for Bernie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anytime.
No problem.
Thanks, Charles. Nice working with you.
Yeah, you too, Tracy. Take care.
Bye-bye.
So lots of